So thank you. Welcome again to everybody. Welcome to my guests and friends. Welcome to the people that is following this event online. This is the handover of one of a side event of the G20, the Interfaith Forum, an initiative taken from a long while and directed by the Interfaith Forum, and Durham is the president. And for the first moment, I'd like to ask him to introduce what the Interfaith Forum is for our guests and our followers, and Cole, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much. I believe you are seeing the screen correctly. So let me begin by thanking our Italian host for arranging this distinguished event. It's a pleasure to join with you today, and we look forward to an exciting year, which we believe will carry the G20 Interfaith Forum, the IF20, to new heights. This time of handover in the G20 process is always filled with mixed feelings of gratitude for all that has contributed to the success of the past year, along with anticipation for new opportunities opening in the next host country. That is particularly true this year as we note the remarkable contributions of KAICIID, the UN Alliance of Civilizations, and our Saudi Arabian hosts. KAICIID took on a particularly heavy role this year, and we cannot adequately express our gratitude for all that KAICIID's leaders and staff have contributed. We are grateful that the Secretary General of KAICIID, His Excellency Faisal bin Muaammar, can be with us today. He is the person who directly delivered the recommendations from this year's G20 Interfaith Forum to the Saudi government, and there could be no one more fitting to participate in this event today. In addition, we owe profound thanks to the UN Alliance of Civilizations and its representative, His Excellency Mr. Miguel Angel Mauritinos, and to the Saudi Arabian National Committee for Interfaith and Intercultural Dialogue, headed by Abdullah Al-Humaid. This past year's event was remarkably successful on many fronts. The forum in October brought together more than 2,000 participants from 90 countries who attended the first ever virtual G20 Interfaith Forum. 28% of the participants joined from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, 14% from Austria, 12% from the USA, and many, many other countries were represented. The forum included 18 sessions spread over 5 days and had 147 speakers representing 47 countries and numerous religions. We are also proud of the strong representation of women in various sessions of the forum. It's also important to note that we achieved a broad and interdisciplinary distribution of participants. 22% of those participating were religious leaders. Another 17% came from faith-based organizations. 17% came from academia. 17% from intergovernmental organizations. 15% were policymakers, and 6% each were either other experts or from the non-governmental sector. Expert participants helped prepare carefully reviewed substantive policy briefs on a variety of key topics that helped ground many of the policy recommendations emerging from the forum. This is one of our hallmarks of really doing substantive work in the policy area. These policy briefs included policy briefs on religious roles in responding to the COVID-19 crisis, hate speech, refugees and forced migration, an interfaith approach to advancing inclusive education, governance and accountability with an emphasis on fighting corruption in COVID-10 emergency situations, modern slavery and trafficking, and interfaith action to protect rainforests. In addition to expert development of policy briefs, this year we were able to arrange 6 regional consultations. Each had slightly different focuses depending on regional needs, but all contributed important insights that were distilled into overall recommendations from the forum and will have continuing relevance as we work on recommendations this coming year in Italy. We achieved significant geographical diversity in working on the regional representations. Thus, we had representatives from 14 African countries in the African regional meeting, 14 from the Arab region, 18 countries from Asia were represented, 25 countries from Europe, 25 countries from Latin America, and then plus the United States and Canada. All of these inputs were distilled into 5 clusters of recommendations. These included addressing COVID-19 emergencies, including addressing vaccine issues, which will be coming up almost immediately, and meeting urgent needs of vulnerable communities. Another cluster focused on advancing peace and resolving conflicts, among other things by supporting a global ceasefire during the global pandemic, addressing hate speech, and protecting sacred sites. A third cluster related to empowering people in a variety of ways, including empowering women and opposing racism. A fourth cluster addressed the increasingly urgent need to take steps that will protect the planet, including supporting rainforest initiatives in the Paris Climate Change Agreement. And finally, a fifth set of recommendations addresses the general issue of ways that synergies between religion and the public sector can be optimized. These intensive initiatives attracted extensive media coverage around the world, including placements in nearly 500 traditional media sources with a potential reach of nearly 600 million people in 23 countries. The Associated Press, for example, placed articles in 52 publications with a total potential reach of 61.5 million. Those placements were in about 9 of the countries, but that's representative of several outreach efforts. This page just shows a few of the examples. You have coverage of the Vice President of the EU, top left. You have the Al-Sheikh from Saudi Arabia, bottom left, and Faisal bin Muaammar, who is with us today. We also, this one covers Miguel Angel Moratinos from the UNAOC, other religious leaders, and so forth. So we had a remarkable year, but we are looking forward to another particularly significant year as we now move to Italy. We are grateful for the energy, creativity, and insight of Alberto Melloni, and for the opportunity to part with his institute, Fscire, which I probably can't pronounce correctly yet, I'll learn, which was already been at work developing exciting plans for the coming year. We have strong hopes that the advent of vaccines starting the next few days and few weeks will mean that by September, we can again have a live meeting, and we hope that this, as things return to normal, this is one of many areas that we will be able to build back better. Thanks again for letting me join with you today, and thanks for the immense goodwill which promises to make our efforts this year even more effective than ever before. Thank you.
Thank you to Col Durham, the president of the G20 Interfaith Forum Association. The association is a network of networks, and we are very proud to have the wisdom, the experience of Col and the entire forum in the event, and this is promising for us. Now it is the moment to ask to Bologna to welcome you and to announce to you how happy we are to have in Bologna the G20 Interfaith Forum next year. So the first speaker saying this is Matteo Lepore, representing the city of Bologna. Prego, Matteo.
Grazie. Good afternoon and welcome to Bologna. As Professor Melloni said, my name is Matteo Lepore. I'm Deputy Mayor for Culture in our city. And I have to say that we are very, very honored to receive the handover. And let me remark the importance of this choice and of this event, and to thank to all the religious and diplomatic authorities in this call, in this meeting, particularly to the Saudi delegation and the Italian delegation, to Fondazione Scienze Religiose team and Professor Melloni, and to the Interfaith Forum Association. Bologna is known as a city of dialogue in its history, a meeting point between different world cultures that over the centuries have given birth to the oldest Western university. And is the city also of the Magna Carta, a place of freedom and fraternity. In 1256, it was the first city in the world to free the slaves as a city. Bologna today is a bridge between Southern and Northern Europe, and an open dimension between Africa and the Mediterranean area. The aim of this forum, the Bolognese Forum, is to contribute to the discussion on interreligious dialogue by showing the knowledge factor as a decisive element for the deconstruction of the narratives that favor integrism, fundamentalism, discrimination, and violence. So I think I have to say that it's a pleasure to welcome this forum as a city that cares for people by caring for relationships. And in conclusion, I have to say welcome to Bologna. I hope you will enjoy our hospitality and have a nice forum to all of you.
Grazie, Matteo. And now the second, but not the last, Matteo, that is Archbishop of Bologna, His Eminence Cardinal Matteo Zuppi. Lascio a te la parola, eminentissimo.
Grazie, però io non mi azzardo a parlare inglese.
Hai tradotto.
Sono tradotto, quindi sono a posto. Devo dire che sono io che vi ringrazio e che ringrazio di questa opportunità che permette di fare di Bologna, che è già un luogo di incontro e uno dei punti uno dei crocevia principali del nostro paese, ma lo è anche come luogo di incontro di cultura, l'università più antica d'Europa, che ha sempre fatto dell'accoglienza e del dialogo la sua caratteristica. Credo che siamo in un momento in cui il dialogo significhi davvero una scelta indispensabile per il mondo, per le sfide a cui che ci troviamo di fronte, per le tante pandemie, perché il mondo indubbiamente è attraversato da tanti problemi. Ci siamo accorti di questo per la rilevanza e perché in fondo ha coinvolto in maniera evidente tutti i paesi. Ma in realtà le pandemie in un modo o nell'altro dobbiamo credere che ci coinvolgano sempre tutte. Per cui il dialogo è l'unica via perché possiamo guardare con fiducia il futuro. E le diverse religioni, a partire dal riconoscimento del valore di ogni persona e del dono che anche l'altra religione, possono contribuire a dare un valore aggiunto con la loro riserva di pace, sottraendo motivazioni perverse, per cui le religioni vengono utilizzate per benedire, per giustificare la violenza, che non ha niente a che fare con le religioni stesse. E le religioni non fanno, ed è questa la bellezza del vostro dialogo e del dialogo quindi che vogliamo accogliere a Bologna, che non fanno diplomazia, cortesia, hanno dei valori che superano questo, e credo che l'obiettivo è anche quello di stabilire amicizia, pace, armonia, di condividere valori ed esperienze morali e spirituali in uno spirito di verità e di amore. Che questo avvenga a Bologna è motivo di grande responsabilità, ma anche di grande gioia, di grande soddisfazione. L'ultimo documento di Papa Francesco è preso da un'espressione di San Francesco, fratelli tutti. Ecco, noi vi aspettiamo con questa convinzione che soltanto nel riconoscere una fraternità che ci unisce, al di là dei doni di ciascuno, al di là dell'identità di ciascuno, che permette ai doni, all'identità di essere ancora di più se stesse, ma appunto in una fraternità che Bologna è ben contenta di aiutare, perché c'è nella tradizione più profonda è la scelta indispensabile degli uomini di religione, perché guardano con una preoccupazione ma con fiducia il futuro del mondo. Quindi grazie e vi aspettiamo.
Thank you very much, Cardinal Zuppi. Hilary, you may offer a summary of the address of the Cardinal.
Here I am. Just a second. Cardinal, I wish to thank everybody for this opportunity that makes a Bologna a meeting place and a place where culture can encounter. Bologna, it's important for this meeting because it's always been a place of encounter and reception. We are in a moment where, and dialogue, and we are in a moment where dialogue, it's a crucial choice for the world and for the challenges that we have to face, especially the pandemic. We have lived more than one pandemic. This one was kind of became important for its relevance and also because it involved the whole world. But actually all pandemics involve everybody in the world. And dialogue could be a way to look to the future with more confidence, and different and religions could contribute to this value of the dialogue. Also because religions will be important beyond the fact that sometimes they can be used to justify violence. But in this case, they can go back to dialogue, and Bologna is the place where we want this to happen, when we want not to do diplomacy, but to establish friendship and a spirit of peace and love. We are really satisfied, and also we welcome this meeting with joy and with a spirit of fraternity, which goes beyond identities and oneself identity. And I'd just like to say that Bologna is happy to host the meeting, is happy to help to reach this dialogue and to reach fraternity. And so I just would like to thank you and to say that we are looking forward to welcome you to Bologna next year.
Thank you again, Cardinal Zuppi. The Interfaith Forum is hosted in the framework of the Italian presidency of the G20, and I'm very honored and grateful to Ambassador Benassi, who is diplomatic advisor to the Italian Prime Minister, Professor Giuseppe Conte, and G20 leading Sherpa, for being with us. Thank you again for welcoming this event in the program of the G20, Ambassador, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Melloni. Dear friends and colleagues, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to take part in this symbolic moment which will pave the way for the Interfaith Forum in September in Bologna for next year. In a time in which the world faces many important global challenges, it is essential that we bridge the cultural and religious gaps that divide humanity in order to focus on shared, common responses. I couldn't agree more with the title and subtext of the 2021 IF20. It is indeed time to heal and to work together to foster peace and understanding. As you all know, as of December 1st, Italy has officially assumed the presidency of the G20, which will lead us to the Rome Summit on the 30th and 31st of October next year. It will be a crucial year. It is our shared hope that we'll finally leave the pandemic behind. It is also the year that will determine, in large part, whether we will address climate change as the global priority it is and preserve our children's future. Italy will have a major role to play. Not only we will hold the G20 presidency, but we will also host the G20 Global Health Summit with the European Commission, in addition to partnering with the UK for COP26. We are well aware of the responsibility that this entails. Our efforts will be inspired by the strong belief that the pandemic, which has so greatly affected our lives, can and must be turned into an opportunity to change for the better. This can only be done, however, if we work together. Our aim is to deliver a better, new normal to live in for global society as a whole. A fair, sustainable, prosperous, and resilient world. I believe the messages that will stem from the Interfaith 20 will resonate strongly with these guiding principles. Given the level of participation I expect, which will be a defining characteristic of the forum, and the strong affinities with the priorities of the Italian presidency, I'm convinced that the impact of your work will be extremely relevant. As many of you know, we have adopted the so-called 3 Ps as interconnected pillars of our common action in the framework of the G20. With people, planet, and prosperity, we want to convey a clear and strong message. In order to pursue a new and lasting prosperity, we need to take care of people and of the planet in a holistic fashion. This, we firmly believe, can only be achieved through shared multilateral action. The pandemic has demonstrated once again an undeniable truth. Local problems can swiftly become global challenges, and global challenges need global actions and solutions. These, in turn, require peace and mutual understanding. And in this regard, a stronger interfaith dialogue could be extremely useful and supportive. I will not get into the details of our plans for the G20, as I don't want to take away too much time from today's important event, but I would like to stress one thing, which I am sure will also guide the efforts of the IF20 chair in the coming months. Our differences are often, if not always, smaller than they appear, and many of our fundamental objectives are the same, packaged in different ways. My experience has shown me that dialogue and frank negotiations are able to bring about innovative solutions to many apparent problems, without the need to sacrifice what is at the heart of each party's position. As a G20 engagement group aimed at promoting dialogue and understanding, I look forward to seeing the outcomes of this forum in September and to building a bridge to the leaders' track. I thank you very much again for your invitation.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Benassi. Thank you for offering to us your time and your reflection for this event. And thank you again to the Italian presidency for this moment. that I hope will help and increase the possibility of transforming the IF20 into a stable group engaging the G20. And now we can enter into the actual handover, and it is my pleasure to ask the Secretary General of the International Dialogue Center, Faisal bin Muaammar, to take the floor. He's a friend, but is also a well-known personality in the field of interreligious dialogue, advisor, the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, and he has been Vice Minister for Education, Advisor to the Royal Court of the Crown Prince, and Deputy of the National Guard for Cultural and Educational Affairs. So we are very happy, Faisal, to receive from you the results and the promise of the so important Interfaith Forum you chaired in the past few weeks.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Alberto. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. I speak to you from Riyadh. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed religious leader, it is an honor for me to be present with you today as the G20 presidency passes from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the Italian Republic. We meet to mark the corresponding formal transition of the G20 Interfaith Forum 2021. Allow me to begin by expressing my deepest congratulations to those key figures who have been instrumental in convening this platform of interreligious dialogue for so many years now. Dr. Durham and Dr. Katherine Marshall in particular. It's really, we appreciate what you did. It's been a good journey with you all. I also extend my best wishes to Professor Alberto Melloni. Your role is vital in making next year's event the success we all know it will be, inshallah. Your hard work in service to interfaith dialogue have made the IF20 into an effective and combining advisory body for the policymakers and world leaders of G20 Summit. You have been able over many years to bring the voices of religious leaders and religious communities from all corners of the world to the arena where G20 policy is discussed and determined. KAICIID is proud to have walked this journey with you. The IF20 process holds a special importance for me for many reasons, not least of which is the fact that KAICIID was born from an initiative by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on behalf of the Islamic world to reach out to other faiths in pursuit of transitional, intercultural, and interreligious dialogue. The Interfaith Forum in Saudi Arabia, therefore, represented for KAICIID an opportunity to marry of two primary motives behind the center's mandate. Deeper dialogue between religious leaders and policymakers, and between the perspectives and the practices of different global religion and cultural communities. It would have been my personal privilege, as well as my country's, to have hosted the largest physical interreligious gathering in the history of the kingdom in Riyadh in last October, a powerful sign of the commitment of the kingdom to interreligious dialogue. The COVID-19 pandemic, unfortunately, throw all our plans away. However, making a physical meeting impossible, and indeed for a time threatening the event itself. However, the problem caused by COVID-19 have taught us the valuable lessons of cooperation and the need to unite before the common challenges. I am proud to say that the road to Riyadh 2020, as I like to call it, rose to the challenges and was marked, despite the pandemic, by the most inclusive, diverse, and wide-ranging consultative process as yet seen in any interfaith forum. The story began in July with the first consultation between religious leaders, faith-based experts, and policymakers in the Arab region. It continued with consultations involving together 500 participants, representing 10 faith traditions in 70 countries on 5 continents, with a special attention paid to ensuring the representation of women and youth. The road to Riyadh has wound its way through Asia, North America, Latin America, Europe, and Middle East in a series of consultations on some of the most pressing challenges in the field of human development. Though virtual, these consultations did not lack passion, urgency, or direction. We heard powerful testimony on themes being considered by this forum on the effect of climate change, gender inequality, economic imbalance, and poor governance. We also heard about the central role religious leaders from different faiths, united by common principles of tolerance and peace, have to play in shaping the destiny of the human family. Each regional consultation brought to the forum a series of recommendations within the framework of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, which testify to the relevance of religious leaders, and faith-based organizations to the wider narrative of a human development. I am pleased to report that the stellar work of the organizing committee has been gratefully received by the G20 Presidency of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, whose greeting I bring to you to this gathering. The recommendations produced by the forum have been received by the G20 Sherpa, who has also expressed his support and that of the Saudi G20 Presidency for the recognition of the G20 Interfaith Forum as a formal engagement group to the G20, hoping that we will celebrate it in Italy, inshallah. The recommendations of the G20 Interfaith Forum have also been delivered to the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and was a topic of the discussion at a meeting of the Royal Court. As we look forward to the G20 Interfaith Forum in 2021, I would like to highlight some lessons learned and guiding principles which I hope can inform our work going forward. The first 2 principles I believe we should adopt are inclusivity and partnership. Partnership around the G20 forum needs to begin from the ground up, involving and hearing from as many faith-based actors as possible in organizations of such an event. As well, there is no sustainable for a multi-level, multi-sectoral partnership. It is true that the wider the partnership, the more challenging the process. But if you adopt the principle and value of flexibility in planning and negotiating needs and concerns of all partners, from the design to implementation, the benefits outweigh the costs. Second, the G20 Interfaith Forum is not an event. It is a cumulative process that starts before and goes beyond the summit itself. So I would emphasize the need for a clear plan that examines how the forum can build on what has been achieved and take it forward into next year. Third, the power of G20 Interfaith Forum and its unique value to G20 policymakers lies in its capacity to bring religious leaders and institutions into a sustained dialogue with policymaking institutions. In the end, this is the power that religious leaders hold, the moral and ethical guardianship that they carry as a source of wisdom for policymakers. We very much look forward to joining you, hopefully physically, in Bologna in 2021 for the G20 Interfaith Forum 2021 to build in this role. And they say thank you and goodbye from Riyadh, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much, Faisal. Thank you for this mandate and suggestions and indication that you offered, so they will be followed, of course. And now I ask Katherine Marshall, who is the Vice President of the Interfaith Forum Association and a Senior Fellow at the Berkeley Center for Religion, Peace and World Affairs in Georgetown University, to take the floor and to say how we are moving from the religious content to the diplomatic content of the G20, how she can offer to us her indication and suggestion. Thank you, Katherine.
Thank you, Alberto. And it's a great honor to be here. We're looking forward so much to being in Bologna. I'm going to focus on 4 questions that arise as we look to 2021 and the Bologna Forum. First of all, why focus so sharply on the G20? Secondly, why interfaith? Third, how has this G20 Interfaith Forum come into being? And finally, what are some of the highlights that we see in 2021? So first, why focus on the G20? The G20, conceived as a global crisis body, has never been needed more than now. The extraordinary global crisis that the world faces demands multilateral approaches. It also demands the G20's agility and commitment to action in a time of crisis. But the G20 needs the engagement of diverse stakeholders. It's about leadership, but it's also about efforts to bring together women and youth, civil society, science, labor, and business. And the many interreligious networks that are focused on global agendas are a part of that process. They bring insights from far corners of the world alongside the mandate and often the courage to speak truth to power. So why interfaith? The G20 Interfaith Forum brings together the wide-ranging networks that have grown up in recent years that focus on global agendas, especially those focused on people and the planet. Each of the 17 goals and 169 targets of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG, has a religious dimension. And interreligious work brings both practical and ethical insights. To illustrate, they focus on building peace, ending hunger, facing climate change, domestic violence, water and sanitation, and resolving the terrible plight of refugees. Interfaith networks and voices offer different, often prophetic voices, and thus enrich the agenda in countless ways. So how did this G20 Interfaith Forum come into being, and how has it changed? This G20 Interfaith Forum has grown from a group that was committed to excellent analysis and focused on issues specific to religious roles and rights. Against a history of engagement through the G7 and G8, the G20 Interfaith Forum began in 2014 and has met every year since then in Australia, Turkey, China, Germany, Argentina, Japan, and Saudi Arabia. Each year, the scope, size, and ambitions have broadened, and today the association represents an ambitious community reflecting the burgeoning interreligious networks across the world. They share a commitment, they are bound and determined to contribute to the demanding global agendas of our times, acting on the inequality that all lament, changing the narrative on refugees, and looking the climate crisis in the face. The healing that is the central challenge today demands such practical interfaith collaboration. So what lies ahead for 2021? We face several immediate and urgent issues. Many relate to the continuing COVID-19 crisis. Distributing vaccines and care in effective and ethical manners requires, in fact, demands the involvement of religious leaders if it's to succeed. There are also critical humanitarian needs that demand urgent attention, notably for refugees and the communities that are so sadly left behind. In the longer term, I think we all speak about, but are deeply committed to the idea of rebuilding in better ways that are fairer and that are greener and that are more just and that involve more people. So the G20 Interfaith Forum in Bologna in September 21 holds special promise. It will bring diverse and creative voices to focus on today's urgent global agendas. It will keep the spotlight shining constantly on people across the world who too often are forgotten and left behind. It underlines the urgent need to reach across divides with new commitments to listening, hearing, and healing pain. Hope, ideas, and courage are hallmarks of the continuing G20 Interfaith venture. The Italian presidency of the G20 offers unprecedented opportunities to link political, social, economic, intellectual, and interreligious insights in a dynamic dialogue where different perspectives can make their voices heard at the policy tables. The future of multilateralism and hopes for rebuilding depend precisely on that kind of new creative synergy. Grazie.
Grazie, Katherine. And thank you for this four pillars that you offer to us. And I think that on this, we may have more contribution and insight from Nathalie Tocci, who is director of the Institute of International Affairs in Italy, special advisor of the external services of the European Union, and an expert of international relations that are at the core of the title of Time to Heal that we have chosen from KAICIID. So the floor is yours, Nathalie. Thank you again for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, Alberto. It's a real pleasure to be with all of you this afternoon. And indeed, very much looking forward to being with you in person in Bologna in due course. So I'm no expert on interfaith dialogue, and certainly with such a distinguished panel, I will not even try and pretend to be one. So let me perhaps say a few words about some of the broader themes that have been raised over the course of this discussion, particularly as they pertain to the need to really strengthen dialogue, cooperation, and multilateralism. And I think it will come as no surprise to anyone to realize that we are really at a crucial point. And it is a crucial point because we have neared a breaking point in the international system. If we rewind back and look at what has happened over the last years, and certainly over the last year, as we've been facing this pandemic, we have seen a number of trends dominating the scene. And all of them have spoken the language of nationalism and closure and protectionism, basically of looking inside rather than reaching outside. We have seen trade protectionism on the rise. We have seen national reflexes prevail, particularly in the first months of the pandemic. We have seen a crystallizing confrontation between particularly China and the United States, a confrontation which up until this pandemic, we thought was one which was essentially limited to a number of different policy areas, be it the trade area, the digital area. We now know that this is a broader political and ideological confrontation, which really has to do with systems of government and values. So it's a much deeper and a much broader confrontation compared to what we thought only a few months ago. And as a consequence of all this, we have also seen not only existing, but new conflicts and crises erupting in different world regions. Now, at the same time, and this is obviously the sort of glass half empty part of the story, let me turn to the glass half full. which brings us closer to the themes of the G20. I think at the same time, this pandemic has offered and is offering an incredible opportunity, and an incredible opportunity precisely because it highlights how a challenge, in fact, a threat like a pandemic, much like most of the other challenges and threats that we face in the international system, are transnational in nature and therefore can only be effectively addressed through dialogue and through partnership and cooperation. There is also another opportunity that has materialized only a few weeks ago, and that lies in the fact that beginning on January the 20th, we will have an administration in the United States that does not look at multilateralism, partnership, dialogue and cooperation as being basically a set and sets of unnecessary shackles that constrain American power, but they will be back in the game of multilateralism and partnership. So we have an opportunity because on the one hand, there is a growing recognition that we need to have multilateral solutions. And on the other hand, there is a growing constellation of actors that actually want to invest in this. And this brings me to the opportunity which I think the G20 represents. And in this respect, I'll be echoing some of the points that Katherine has just made. G20, in a sense, offers an extremely interesting format because it does at least two things. On the one hand, it is wide enough and therefore representative enough, while at the same time being agile. And this enables us to tackle those range of questions which do not necessarily require the same or similar political systems or similar or same economic systems, but they require a cooperation which is as broad and wide as possible. And themes like addressing the pandemic, addressing climate change, and ensuring economic recovery are three themes which require for us to broaden the net, in a sense, as wide as possible. But at the same time, doing so in a manner that enables us to take effective decisions, which is what a format such as the G20 allows us to do. At the same time, it is a format that, because of its internal diversity, and this, in a sense, brings us closer also to the themes connected to interfaith dialogue, allows us to, I would say, expand out what I would define as being boundaries of trust. And boundaries of trust which indeed become all the more difficult, in a sense, to widen out and to achieve, precisely when we are talking about different political, economic, social systems. And it is therefore, particularly if we think about other themes on the multilateral agenda, themes that relate to digital, to security, to migration. These are themes that are very imbued with value systems, and therefore ensuring that those boundaries of trust are expanded is essential. Now, let me conclude by mentioning what I personally believe should be some of the main sort of action points of the upcoming G20. And here I'm going to sort of echo, obviously, the three priorities of the Italian presidency that Pietro Benassi was highlighting, i.e. people, prosperity, and planet. But let me just kind of finish off by mentioning some of the pointers under those three headings, which I think we should be working on. Now, people, in a sense, is the easy one. It's the easy one in the sense that it's obvious what is it that we're trying to achieve here. Not that it's easy to achieve it, but it's clear that this is basically the story of the pandemic, and 2021 will necessarily be the year in which we will have to ensure that, given that we do now have a vaccine, we will not simply bend back into vaccine nationalism, and the G20 really does put the spotlight on vaccine distribution, particularly when it comes to developing countries. Secondly, in the prosperity box, here I think it is crucial, particularly in the context of the G20, to kind of do what the G20 is good at doing. And what the G20 has in the past been good at doing has been precisely that of coordinating economic recovery. Let us not forget the G20 basically made its name in exiting the global financial crisis a decade ago. And therefore ensuring that economic recovery is coordinated, fiscal stimulus is coordinated across the G20 is going to be of crucial importance, just as it is going to be of crucial importance to really make an important step further. And I think this is another theme on which interfaith dialogue can play a crucial role in addressing the question of debt relief. It is simply not enough to say, well, we will prolong the current moratorium on debt relief to developing countries. I think that in order for this particular topic to be considered a success in the coming year, it will be crucial that we move well beyond a mere prolongation of the current suspension. And then very finally, under the planet heading, here I think that there are a number of issues that require multilateral coordination. Let me just mention 4 of them. It is clear that we need to make steps forward in terms of climate finance. We are well below the 100 billion per year on climate finance that has been highlighted back in COP21 in Paris as a target. I think there are important steps forward to be made on coordinating climate risk disclosure, climate taxonomies, and perhaps most importantly of all, I would say, coordination on carbon pricing. Now, I mentioned some of these action points simply to conclude by saying that this is not a G20 where it will be sufficient to end up with a nice set of declarations. The crisis that we're facing is such that unless we actually get, and it doesn't need to be a long list, I mean, it can literally be only 3 or 4 of these points, but they need to be actionable and actioned upon points in order to ensure that this crucial multilateral format, the G20, actually does live up to its full potential. And I'll stop there, Alberto.
Thank you very much, Nathalie. And so for the wrap-up of all what has been said, I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce Ambassador Elisabetta Melloni. She is Secretary General of the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, and she's also a very dear friend of many of us, and Cardinal Zuppi and I myself are among them. And so it's a reason, I have to say the reason, because we asked to one of the most prominent personality of our diplomacy to take the floor for the last words here. It is because what we hope is that the G20 Interfaith Forum will be something larger than, so to say, the usual celebration of public friendship among religious leaders. It is the research of something in which Italian diplomacy has expressed its best intention to use culture and the inner feelings of religious belief in a diplomatic research of peace and building peace, because the 3 P are very good, but I would add I would be very happy to add the 4th one, that is peace to them beside prosperity. And so Ambassador Melloni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alberto. Really, I am indeed honored and grateful for the invitation that the Foundation extended to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And of course, I want to congratulate you for hosting today's event. And of course, I want to stress that we very much rely on the contribution that the Foundation will provide to the G20 Interfaith Forum during the Italian presidency of the G20. My congratulations, and of course I want to seize this occasion to congratulate also Saudi Arabia for having chaired the G20 Interfaith Forum in the last 12 months, with competence, with wisdom, facing unprecedented challenges due to the COVID pandemic. Of course, I have read with great interest the interventions and records of the G20 Forum held by Saudi Arabia. I have to acknowledge the high level of speakers and panelists and the extremely stimulating contribution that they handed over to us. As far as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is concerned, I would like to touch upon very briefly on a few points, which in our opinion remain crucial in the interfaith debate. The first point is the fight against hate speech, which has, as you all know, in the 2017 UN Plan of Action for Religious Leaders, a strong basis in countering incitement to violence. We have to go on in the right direction, having in mind that religious communities need to improve their capacity to prevent hate speeches, to foster mutual understanding among people of different religious and non-religious beliefs, and promote knowledge of the other, especially within the youth. I think we need to consistently tackle hate speech and incitement to violence with equal determination, irrespective of which religion, belief, or community is under threat. The second point I would like to mention is the protection of sacred sites and the preservation of religious cultural heritage. I think we have to reinforce the UN Plan of Action to safeguard the religious sites. These sites play a crucial role as a meeting point to exchange experience and knowledge in religious and cultural fields. Very sadly, places of worship are still common targets in armed conflicts due to their highly symbolic value and the pain that can be inflicted on communities by attacking their religious places and symbols. The third point is how religious leaders and institutions can address tensions affecting migrants, refugees, and displaced people. A sizable number of organizations working in the humanitarian field have a religious affiliation, and religious leaders can use their spiritual authority to convey the right messages and lessen grievances around such phenomena. Fourth point is the need to promote freedom of religion or belief at both the national and international level. Based on its unique religious and cultural experience, Italy has made FORB a priority in human rights policy, including within our current mandate in the UN Human Rights Council. FORB is a powerful driver of development, inclusiveness, and peace when pursued genuinely, away from partisan agendas or national self-interest. Fifth point is the fight against violent extremism and the promotion of interreligious dialogue. The latest terrorist attacks in Europe are a sad reminder of how easily religions can be exploited and manipulated for purposes that have nothing to do with the spiritual sphere. States should combat terrorism through strengthened security cooperation, but deeper interaction between governments and religious leaders and community is also needed to counter such challenges and build an environment conducive to peaceful cohabitation and mutual respect. More broadly, the magnitude of the challenges facing our societies has shown that civil and religious actors can no longer afford to ignore each other, as has been the case for too long in the past. They have a shared responsibility to advance common values and improve the governance of global affairs through a multi-layered and coordinated action. In doing so, religious actors should enjoy full freedom in fulfilling their roles and their civil counterparts should refrain from limiting their scope of action or trying to exploit them to forward their own political agendas. Nowadays, it is widely recognized that religious leaders have a say on global affairs. Their advocacy potential stretches well beyond strictly religious matters. Their messages are not limited to their own constituencies, but can reach people of different cultures and religious or non-religious affiliations. The document on human fraternity for world peace and living together, signed by Pope Francis and Grand Imam of Al-Azhar in Abu Dhabi, signed last year, stand as a meaningful example of such trend that governments should encourage and support. Therefore, I can praise the idea of associating an interfaith forum to the G20, which was first launched in 2014 as a way to reinforce the partnership between governments and religious actors on common objectives. Italy is ready and willing to share its experience and provide a platform for deeper dialogue and stronger cooperation in the search of effective and durable solutions to contemporary challenges. And of course, I want to conclude by wishing all the best and a successful G20 Interfaith Forum. And on my side, I also hope that the G20 Presidency of Italy will contribute to increase dialogue among not only the members of the G20, but beyond it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Melloni. Thank you, Elisabetta. Just one word to close this handover. The title that we have chosen comes from the book of KAICIID. And as maybe you know, before time to heal, there is not a time for pandemic, but there is a time to kill and a time to heal. And so the responsibility concerning violence, concerning hate, concerning the hate against a sacred place is part of this agenda. One of the things that we are trying to prepare for the G20 is a list of the people killed in the place of prayers in the last 40 years. Just to remember that hate and violence are not simply affecting and manipulating something that is external to the religious community, but something that is very internal in the real life of the believers and the fellows of the community. The responses will not be easy. The responses will take time, and we will have time in the G20 Interfaith Forum in Bologna to discuss on this. We have used a sentence of St. Thomas Aquinas as a subtitle of the Time to Heal conference, namely to know the other by the essence of the one who knows. And it is a phrase coming from a reflection of Thomas Aquinas of how angels may know. And only angels may know this way, says Thomas, but a human being can assimilate the sapienza exemplata of this and try to know the other and to find in better knowledge the respect that is due. And we hope that the G20 Interfaith Forum may contribute to the success of the Italian presidency, and we are grateful for welcomed in this event, and grateful to all the speakers of tonight. And so once again, welcome in Bologna when you will come in September, and we will work hard in this month to prepare the event. Thank you again.